Hello, everyone. It's Caroline here, and welcome back to our look at the Cold War and the tensions that were going on between America and the Soviets after World War II. So we are up now to 1956 is where we've got in our course, and we're looking at the Hungarian Uprising. So a time when the Hungarian people were sick of being ruled by the Soviets, and they try and get rid of them. So our learning objective and our success criteria, I can explain the causes, events, and consequences of the Hungarian uprising. So we're in 1956 and we're here in Hungary. So there on the map is part of Eastern Europe, and you can see it's one of those satellite states. So remember the Soviets and Russia, a little bit sick of getting invaded by Western Europe in the world wars. So they want a buffer zone, a safety zone, a load of countries around their border with the West that they use for protection. So you want to invade Russia, you have to go through those satellite states. And we can see there Hungary right in the middle. I've also put on the board for you, they are a member of the Warsaw Pact. Now, we touched on the Warsaw Pact very briefly in one of our earlier lessons. But if we remember, it was sort of like a friendship group where they agreed that if one person was attacked, they would all come and help out. So it's what's called a military alliance. So an alliance where they all agree if someone gets attacked, everyone's going to help them. The Warsaw Pact. So that's going to become important later on. So, just a few years before, in 1953, there are new leaders for America and there's new leaders for the Soviets. So, Stalin dies in 1953. Truman isn't re-elected. So, there's an election in 1952 to become president in 53. Truman doesn't get re-elected. So, they both disappear from our story. And instead, in America, we get this man here, Dwight Eisenhower. Now, Eisenhower had been a general in World War II. He was leader of the Allied armed forces in World War II. And he was a really good man from the sense of America wanting to stand up to the Soviets. There's no nonsense about him. He's very tough. He's a general, so he has support for the armed forces. He spends a lot of money on weaponry for the Cold War. So he is not a man that is going to be pushed around. And in Russia, we have this chap come in. This man's name is Nikita Khrushchev, and he is going to be leader of the Soviets for a long time. So we do need to know him. So we get Stalin, and then we get Khrushchev. People struggle to spell his name, understandably. So if you remember that there's the word rush in the middle of it, you won't go far wrong. And also, if in doubt, put in an H. He has lots of H's in his name. So Khrushchev, rush in the middle, you won't go far wrong. So he's going to come in and he unwittingly is going to cause a lot of the Hungarian uprising because Stalin's such a monster. When he goes, everyone assumes like it can only get better. And they're kind of right. I mean, Khrushchev is not the monster that Stalin was, but he is by no means a nice man. And people fall in the trap of being like, well, Stalin's gone. Maybe the Soviets will be a bit weaker now, a bit more sort of nicer, a bit more amenable to Hungary and other countries being independent. And as we're going to see, they are sadly very, very wrong. So Khrushchev comes in. So, what's going on in Hungary at this time? Why are people unhappy? So, first up, no surprises there, lack of political freedom. So, openly opposing the communists is not a sensible thing to be doing in Hungary. It's a really dangerous thing to be doing, and it will get you arrested pretty quickly. There is only one political party, that's the communists. They do have elections, but the only options are communists. So no surprise there that people in Hungary and indeed all of the satellite states are not really thrilled with the lack of freedom around politics. But also, on top of that, in Hungary, there are fuel shortages and there are poor harvests. So times are bad. They really don't like communism. They don't think it's working for them. And Stalin's just died, so they think this might be the chance to go on their own, to become independent. So, as the citizens were unhappy, there were riots in the capital city of Budapest. It's obviously a big problem for Khrushchev. He has to sort this out. And what he does, he sends in Soviet soldiers and they go and they restore order and they get reported back to Khrushchev that the main problem is the prime minister whose name is Rakosi. So Khrushchev hears the prime minister of Hungary, Rakosi, this communist prime minister, is really harsh, he's really mean, he's very unpopular. So his advisors are saying to him, if you want to solve the Hungarian problem nice and quickly, get rid of Rakosi, which is what Khrushchev does. And he replaced him with this man, whose name is Imre Nagy. Now it's pronounced Nagy, but it's spelled Nagy. So there isn't like an oral exam in these GCSEs. If you want to think of him in your head as Nagy to help with the spelling, you go for it. So Nagy comes in, and I've put on the board there that he's also a communist. And this is important because it's kind of easy to forget that with Nagy. So Nagy is a communist, but he thinks life should be enjoyable. Is that communism doesn't have to be miserable. It doesn't have to be secret police arresting you if you criticize communists and having elections where you can only vote for communists. He's like, that's not an enjoyable lifestyle. So very easy to forget he's communist. He's absolutely a communist. He loves communism. He just thinks it doesn't have to be miserable. So some of the things he brings in, free elections. So having other political parties that aren't communist, giving land back to farmers, getting rid of secret police, so no more fear about saying the wrong thing and having someone overhear and report you, or having the secret police listening in. So, and on the same sort of line, he allows free speech. So if you think the communist government in Hungary is not doing a good job, come and say your problems, we'll look at it. So far, so good. So Khrushchev is like, have at it. As long as it's solving the Hungarian situation, I don't particularly like your reforms, but if that is the cost of sorting out the issues with Hungary, you go for it, Naj. So then, however, Naj makes a really big mistake. And this is a fact that we really need to remember because it comes important later on. Naj announces that he is going to be leaving the Warsaw Pact. So that friendship group of alliances, the satellite states, you attack one, they're all going to help out. Naj is like, we are out of that. Hungary is not doing that anymore. So Naj thinks that Khrushchev's so much nicer than Stalin, so he can push it a bit. And then he pushes it with his reforms and Khrushchev's like, sure, if that's what you want to do. So it kind of encourages Naj to go, well, you're okay with this. What about if we leave the Warsaw Pact? And it's just a step too far for Khrushchev. So Khrushchev is like, absolutely not, not happening. 4th of November, the Soviets send in soldiers and tanks. Naj sends a really frantic appeal to the West, to America, and is that, hey, America, you're always telling us to stand up to communism. We're doing that. Where are you? America, the West, don't send any help. They're like, we're really sorry. We agree with you. We support you, Naj. We think what you're doing is amazing, but we can't actually get involved. Poor Naj eventually gets put on trial and he gets executed. Along 20,000 Hungarians are killed in the Hungarian Uprising. It's 20,000 people. That's so many killed because Hungary said they were going to leave the Warsaw Pact. And that marks the end of the Hungarian uprising. So Naj is executed. There's another stricter communist comes in. and then Hungary kind of toes the line from here on in. So finally, let's just look at the consequences of them. So the one at the very top there, the USSR was stronger than before. None of the satellite states are going to be trying it on with Khrushchev for a long time. Khrushchev actually famously comes out and says, let this be a lesson to any country in the satellite states. So he's not trying to hide what he's done. He's openly being like, yes, I killed Naj and 20,000 people. And if you annoy me, I'm going to do the same to you. So behave yourself. So for a long, long time, none of the other satellite states are going to do anything about it. Moving on around clockwise, reputation of the West and America was damaged. So they've been doing a lot of talk about what's going on in Eastern Europe isn't right. Countries should be throwing off like the Soviets. And then at the moment when it was like, well, follow that up with some action, they're like, yeah, no, sorry, you're on your own. So it made America look weak, like they were all talk. And then finally, relationship between East and West was damaged. So the East, the Soviets were like, why are you stirring things up, America? Why are you trying to encourage countries to rebel? The West are like, what are you doing, Soviets? Like Khrushchev, you've just killed 20,000 people. What is happening? So tensions increase. Both sides get further and further apart. So the next stage in the Cold War.